Press the Let's Go Live button, and that means we've got to wait for the stream to fire up all across the fruited plain of the internet. Before we go ahead and get started, we're waiting for the Rumble to connect, to the YouTube, to the locals, to the Twitter, to the Telegram. And I think we're rocking and rolling. That means we can go ahead and get started, and let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live. My name is Robert Gouveia. I am a criminal defense attorney broadcasting from the Valley of the Sun, deep in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. And today, my friends, we are talking about nasty. A lot of that going around. We have to get into the Donald Trump town hall blowout. Now, this took place last night. And we've got some clips to attend to because they covered a lot of ground, a lot of stories and issues and cases that we talk about here, including the E. Jean Carroll case. Woo! One of the top questions, of course, during Trump's town hall was about his reaction to the verdict that just came out earlier this week. And so he answered this question, and it was an interesting answer. And I'm sure his lawyers were on the edge of their seat as this was going on. But what turns out is they're talking about suing him again for another answer that he gave last night. New York Times says E. Jean Carroll and Roberta Kaplan are communicating about maybe another defamation lawsuit based on that answer. So it's like it never ends. Now, Trump has already filed his appeal, or his notice of appeal. To be a little bit more specific, there is a difference. We'll take a look at the filing and the final order that came out from the court. Trump also talked about January 6th, and the question came up about whether he would pardon any of the J6ers, a very pertinent issue to the conversations we've been having. And he also did the old receipts out of the jacket move. Boom! Read this. So we'll go through that one. He did speak about the Mar-a-Lago situation with the classified documents, and this is a clip that got a lot of virality. Trump talking about Kaitlan being a nasty person, and that is the catchphrase of the day. And then Trump gave an answer about Ukraine and Russia, saying nobody wins a war, everybody dies. So we'll do a refresh on what happened. Then I want to go back into what the media said in response, because, man, there was just a lot of screeching last night, starting with Jake Tapper. He went through, he gave the highlights. He's like, Trump lied, and he's ruining America, and I can't believe and he's just this big thing. So we'll listen to him. Joe Brzezinski, who is the husband to Mika Brzezinski, who runs a show over there on MSNBC, looks like he's going through a traumatic experience as well. He had a rough night. He woke up morning Brzezinski show and was very upset about it. AOC is calling CNN shameful. She was even posting tweets about it. That's how upset she was. She said, this cannot be normalized. This cannot be allowed. This is dangerous. CNN defended it because it was a very interesting conversation, because Donald Trump is running for, the presidency. So we'll see what CNN said in defense. Byron Donalds has been crushing it. He was on CNN defending Donald Trump and the conversation that was had at the town hall. And there are a couple fun clips when CNN went over to their focus group and they asked them questions about what they thought about this entire town hall and some of Trump's answers. And their questions and their answers are very interesting indeed. So we'll go through all of that as we round up on what happened during the Trump town hall, the blowout over there. And then we want to turn our attention back over to this story, which is that the FBI is denying Congress access to that document. Recall that a few weeks ago, James Comer and Chuck Grassley sent a letter to the FBI demanding that they give them access to a very important document that they said memorialized a whistleblower conversation. And the whistleblower conversation was not acted upon. And so Congress wants to know why, because evidently the whistleblower went to them and told them about it. So the subpoena went to the FBI. Congress sends a subpoena to the FBI. You think that would be the end of the story? No. FBI responded, said, why don't you guys just go pound sand? Get the heck out of my office. And we'll read it. It's a little bit more detailed than that, but we'll read it. Long story short, they're not giving him the document. And Grassley and Comer issued a response. What are they going to do? We have this good old separation of powers. We have a conflict of interest between the branches. Will the courts resolve this? And if so, how? So, as you can see, we've got a lot to get to, my friends. And We would love it if you joined to be a part of the show and to be a part of our community where we connect over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. A great place to be. And we love our members. Whether you join on Locals or whether you become a member on YouTube, we are super grateful. And I want to give a special ultra shout out to Dolphin Fan, the man in the house, who gifted 5 memberships to start the day off right. Welcome to Garrett, Cheryl, Iyesha, Tyler, and Peng, all coming in courtesy of Dolphin Fan. And there are lots of thank yous going out to Dolphin Fan. Thank you for inviting new members on YouTube. And Voice of the People did it too. Voice of the People's bringing another 5 new members in. Shout out to James. We've got Green Chicken Man, who's going to be in there now. Yes. Well, green chicken. Well, it depends. Maybe like green chilies, maybe. Mary Jo's in the house. Andy's here. And Liz Botts is in the house, joining us courtesy of Voice of the People. And Voice of the People, want to thank Voice of the People as well for giving us a nice shout out over on the Tim Pool show last night. Very much appreciate that. And our Tim Pool segment, where we talked about Juror 77, is now up on the channel. That was from yesterday's show. So if you want to check that out, again, super fun segment where we learned all about the wreckage that Tim Pool has caused throughout the last really several millennia in this world. We also want to shout out our friends over at fieldofgreens.com, because of course we all would like to lose some of those leftover pandemic pounds. And you know, how sick are you, right? Of all the ads for the weight loss pills, the fad diets. We've all been there. We've all done that. And we know that they just don't work. But you know what does? Eating 5 healthy servings of fruits and vegetables every day. You do that and the weight would probably just fall right off. But vegetables, not a fan. And fruit, who's got time to prepare that every day? Let's talk about Field of Greens instead. Field of Greens is a science-backed formula of specific fruits and vegetables that you won't find in any other product. Proper nutrition reboots your metabolism so you can burn calories faster and lose weight a healthier way. And Field of Greens is the only brand backed by a better health promise. Yes, you'll look and feel healthier fast, but the greater proof is going to come at your next checkup when your doctor says, wow, you've lost weight. Amazing. Whatever you're doing, keep it up. But we know it's Field of Greens. So go to fieldofgreens.com and don't forget to use code Robert when you check out so you can save 15% on your first order. The vegetables want to be eaten. They've got stuff for your joints. They've got stuff to help you sleep. Tons of natural, real organic superfoods over at fieldofgreens.com. The vegetables want to be eaten, and you want to be bursting with good green energy, the good kind. Okay, so let's get right to it and jump into the meat and potatoes of the day. The Donald Trump Town Hall. CNN Town Hall with Donald Trump is a banger. Donald Trump got there. One of the first questions that came his direction was about the E. Jean Carroll trial. You're kidding. Just a few short days before the town hall took place, Trump got found liable, not for all of the charges. In fact, the biggest claim that E. Jean Carroll brought against Donald Trump for the big R word, she lost that one. Donald Trump won. A couple of the other allegations about abuse and defamation, Trump was found liable for, and he is going to be appealing that, and that has already been filed with the court. So before Donald Trump comments on this, let me give you a quick reveal about what happened with E. Jean Carroll. This is the final order that came out from the court, final judgment that was entered in on 5/11, 1 page. Judgment signed by the judge, Lewis Kaplan, U.S. District Judge, confirmed by the deputy clerk and the clerk of the court as follows. Dated May 11, 2023. It is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that after a jury trial before Judge Kaplan, District Judge, Plaintiff Carroll has a judgment, this is the judge speaking, against defendant Donald Trump in the amount of $2 million for injuries, $20,000 in punitives, which again is so laughable. It's like tip money, couch cushion money. The jury didn't even punish him. Should have been 20 million, not 20,000. 1 million for damages other than the reputation repair program, 1.7 million for damages and for the reputation repair program, and 280,000 in punitive damages. That was for the defamation. So as we covered previously, it was more wrong for Trump to defame E. Jean Carroll than it was to grab her by the thing. According to this jury, it was worse. So that's saying something about, I guess, our society. If you say something bad, that's way worse than grabbing them in punitive damages. That's the only logic I can extract from this. $20,000 for the actual abuse, $280,000 for the defamation in terms of punitives. Digressing, that was the final order. Trump and his team have already filed a notice of appeal. Now, let's take a look at this, but it's extremely short. It's 2 pages, and it's just a notice of appeal. And when you have appeals in any courts, you're going to be up against deadlines. First thing you have to do is let them know, hey, we're going to be appealing this. Then the second thing you do is actually file your appellate memorandum. Then you start to go through the other procedural things that you have to do, like preserve the record and get official this, that, and the other things, and then assemble your memo and then actually file the appeal. So this is just notice. It's, hey, this is what's coming. So you comply with the rules, you comply with the deadlines, and then you'll have another bucket of time in which to file everything. So this is not the full appeal, just the notice. Right after the judgment came out, Trump's team turned around, fired this right back, boom. Notice is hereby given that Donald Trump appeals to the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit from the judgment entered in today, May 11th. As soon as the judgment hit, the appeal layered right on top of it, awarding Jean Carroll compensatory and punitive damages in the amount of $5 million, appealing the entire verdict. Also, all orders, rulings, decrees, everything we are appealing, all merged into the one final judgment entered by Judge Kaitlan. You see signed here by Joe Scarborough, counsel for defendant Donald Trump. So immediate appeal, about what we expected, and we'll start to see the rest of it materialize as it is assembled and compiled. But after the verdict and after the appeal, Trump and E. Jean Carroll's lawyers will submit their filings and we'll see where it goes. But Trump was asked about the verdict in particular. Now, this was one question coming on the CNN town hall, and here's Trump's response.
Because what's happening is they're doing this for election interference. This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy, John Johnson. He was a newscaster, a very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African American. Called him an ape. The judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. Her dog or her cat was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things he would, but with her, they can put in anything. Access,
this
Hollywood.
This was a jury of 9 people.
So when he was speaking at that beginning moment, when he said, I never met her, if you're analyzing that as a factual statement, you're Roberta Kaplan, you're E. Jean Carroll's lawyer, and you're saying, yeah, you did. We've got a photograph of you together. But Trump uses language very loosely. I never met her. We got a photograph taken. Right? And that's because he takes thousands of photographs all the time. And a photograph is not the equivalent of a meet. But for other people, like maybe me or you, who don't take thousands of photographs every day, everywhere you go all the time, you kind of take photographs with people you meet, right? I don't just go around randomly taking photographs with strangers who just walk up to me. And I'm sure you don't either. But Trump does. Everywhere he goes, everybody wants a picture. So that is not a meet. For us, it's probably a meet. You go out, you meet somebody, have a coffee. Hey, this is a nice dinner. Well, nice thing. Nice to meet you. We're hiking together. Let's take a photo. But it's a different situation here. But he uses language very loosely, but he still says stuff that is seemingly factually inaccurate, right? He did actually meet her in person. They came to a physical interaction. There is a photo together, and it looks like they might even be talking. But him saying that is not a meet, if I'm Roberta Kaplan, I'm like, oh, perfect. He's just lying again actively. We showed evidence that there is a photo. But then in the next statement, when Trump speaks, he says, we just took a photo. So he's almost acknowledging that. We never met. We just took a photo. And so then he has plausible deniability that when he said the word meet or met, that it had a different definition, which is much more intimate than the definition that maybe society is using. But you can see Trump says stuff like that, and it's very exploitable. You can just latch right onto that. And they're threatening a third lawsuit, and that's going to be the reason why. So let's listen to that just one more time so we can hear it again.
They're doing this for election interference. This woman, I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. I had a picture taken years ago with her and her husband, nice guy, John Johnson. He was a newscaster, very nice man. She called him an ape. Happens to be African-American.
And that was kept out.
Called him an ape. The judge wouldn't allow us to put that in. Her dog.
We read through the transcript. The judge said it was too probative. It was too prejudicial and not probative enough. It was kept out under Rule 403 because it was too harmful. He said, we have a mixed race jury here on this panel. And if they know that E. Jean Carroll was calling her ex-husband a racial epithet, that would be a big problem for them.
Or her cat was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things but with her, they can put in anything. Access
this
Hollywood.
This was a jury of 9
people. The way he just says every word is just, it's very Trump. Here it is.
Put that in. All of these things but cat was named Vagina. The judge wouldn't allow to put that in. All of these things
It's almost
but with
like
her,
China.
They can put in anything.
China.
Access
this
Hollywood.
Was a jury of 9 people who found you liable of sexual abuse. Do you think that will deter women from voting for you?
No, I don't think so, because I think the whole thing, just so you understand, ready? I never met this woman. I never saw this woman. This woman said, I met her at the front door of Bergdorf Goodman.
Do you see that? So the language it changes. It's very curious how he does this, and it's hard to pin him down on anything. I never met her. I never saw her. And then in the very next statement, he starts talking about her story, which is not true, right? He's going to be hypothesizing about her story.
Rarely go into it, other than for a couple of charities. I met her in the front door.
See?
She was about 60 years old, and this is like 22, 23 years ago. I met her in the front door of Bergdorf Goodman. I was immediately attracted to her, and she was immediately attracted to me. And
He's
we
talking in present tense.
Had this great chemistry. We're walking into a crowded department store. We had this great chemistry, and a few minutes later, we end up in a room, a dressing room of Bergdorf Goodman, right near the cash register. And then she found out there were locks on the door. So she said, I found one that was open. She found one. She learned this at trial. She found one that was open. What kind of a woman meets somebody and brings them up, and within minutes you're playing hanky-panky in a dressing room, okay? I don't know if she was married then or not. John Johnson, I feel sorry for you, John Johnson.
Mr. President, can I...
It's just an amazing answer because it's so ridiculous and dismissive, and he synthesizes the whole thing, which, according to the left, is one of the most egregious, it is one of the most egregious things you can do to another person, is to abuse them in that manner. And they've been screaming about it. Trump did this and all this stuff. We here know what the evidence showed. We know this case is 28 years old. We know there was no hard evidence about any of it. The only witness corroboration in any of this is about phone calls. And even the friends who got the phone calls were nonchalant about it. Lisa went back to making chicken nuggets for her kids, and everybody else just kind of forgot about it, like it's old E. Jean Carroll just being kind of nuts again. And everybody was dismissive of it. So the case, from our perspective, is obviously a joke. We're not here in the business of dunking on victims of abuse crimes, but we're also going to be holding everybody to certain evidentiary standards. And you can't just come out of the woodwork in 2019 after you meet with George Conway, after you're funded by billionaire Reid Hoffman, people who've got vendettas against Donald Trump, concoct an entire scheme of a case, go and prosecute it and execute it, and then turn around and tell us it's supposed to be legitimate, like we're supposed to believe all women. Ridiculous. Don't need to do that at all. So what Donald Trump has done is synthesize all of that into this hanky-panky word. And it's so ridiculous that E. Jean Carroll would go into this, meet him, they'd have this little escapade, run upstairs, and this whole ordeal would go down. And then in the aftermath, there's no consequence until it becomes politically feasible to use it as a cudgel against Trump. And for all the screaming to just put a mirror up and say, no, it's hanky-panky and it's a fake conversation. It's just beautiful. It deflates the whole thing from a persuasive level. In a jury trial, you'd latch onto that as like the theme of your case or something. You call this, it's such a colorful word that it just stands out. And he dismisses the whole thing. The audience is laughing about it. And Kaitlan Collins is obviously very agitated. She can't take it. Now, as I mentioned, they are saying that they're going to sue Donald Trump a third time over this, or contemplate it based upon some of those statements. Now, this is also interesting. The entire trial, when we were looking for photographs of E. Jean Carroll, all of her photographs were smiling, smiling, smiling. And we noticed that her hairstyle changed, right? A lot of stuff changed before the trial. She used to have the very short hair, very curly, sort of, buzzed down to the head. When trial started, they wanted to make her look a little bit younger, hide her face, box in her face, cut off the rest of her, head from being reviewed, get the hair nice and orderly, make her look a little bit younger, and hide some of the features. And she was also smiling everywhere she went. They told her, when you come out of the courtroom, smile. When you go into the car, smile. And if you look for it, look around, try to find a trial photo of E. Jean Carroll. I did try to find a different facial expression. Her lawyers had her disciplined smile, smile, smile. A lot of them with teeth, and a lot of them with, a bigger grin. Now, after the trial is over, we get some nice photographs that are taken, and now she's this, this sort of this regal, non-smiling, little bit more somber, mission accomplished type of a look. So it's just an interesting change that I noticed. Now, the point is, they are contemplating suing Trump a third time after vile comments on CNN. E. Jean Carroll is weighing whether to file a new defamation after what we just heard from Donald Trump, saying that the assault was fake and a made-up story. Her lawyer said this on Thursday. Trump's comments on CNN came one day after the $5 million damages was ordered against him. Carroll said on Thursday morning she had been asleep as Trump talked about her. She said that her lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, sent her a transcript of his comments, and she had only read the first paragraph. So Roberta Kaplan is just like, salivating. Remember, lawyers get a nice chunk. I don't know what her portion of the $5 million fee was, but that's a nice chunk. Trump's got the money. He's a defendant with a lot of deep pockets. And if she's got a plaintiff here that has, some nice claims, man, she can keep milking this cow until it doesn't squirt anymore for her. It's just stupid. It's just disgusting. So she's watching everything from Trump. She's got her researchers, and they get the transcript. She's like, oh, perfect. We got another claim here. Let's sue for another $5 million. She says, it's just stupid, Ms. Carroll said in an interview. It's just disgusting, vile, foul. It wounds people. So build up those damages, baby. Puff those up. Ms. Carroll said she had been infuriated when her longtime stylist told her that her 15-year-old son was talking about what Trump said. Damages just abounding again. In addition to the case that ended on Tuesday, Ms. Carroll has an earlier defamation suit that is still pending. On Thursday, Kaplan said no decision about whether the new defamation suit would be filed. Everything's on the table, she said. We have to give serious consideration to it. We have to weigh the various pros and cons, and we'll come to a decision in the next day or so, probably. They're going to sue him again. Trump, in response to questions from the CNN moderator, called Ms. Carroll a whack job, said that the civil trial was a rigged deal. His comments drew laughter, and he mocked her story. He says, what kind of woman meets somebody and brings them up within minutes? You're playing hanky-panky in the dressing room, Trump said. It's a good question. Yeah, who does that? Who does anything that E. Jean Carroll did? Who gets attacked and arred by Donald Trump and then watches his show The Apprentice and makes jokes about being somebody who sleeps with Trump for $17,000 on her Facebook account? What is all of that about? Maybe it's just a woman who is riding an effort that's been assembled for a whole slew of other reasons to take out a political enemy of the Democrats. And so that is exactly what is happening. We'll see if they sue Trump again, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. Now, other questions came to Trump. A big issue at the town hall was whether Donald Trump would do anything about January 6th. in particular, whether he would pardon some of the so-called rioters, some of the protesters, the people who have been convicted of crimes, many of them for simple trespassing obstruction offenses. Trump got the question from a member in the audience. Here's what it sounded like.
My question to you is, will you pardon the January 6 rioters who were convicted of federal offenses?
I am inclined to pardon many of them.
Ooh.
I can't say for every single one because a couple of them probably they got out of control. But, you know, when you look at Antifa, what they've done to Portland, and if you look at Antifa, look at what they've done to Minneapolis and so many other places. Look at what they did to Seattle and BLM. Many people were killed. These people, I'm not trying to justify anything. But you have two standards of justice in this country, and what they've done, and I love that question, because what they've done to so many people is nothing. And then what they've done to these people, they've persecuted these people. And yeah, my answer is I am most likely, if I get in, I will most likely, I would say it will be a large portion of them. You know,
Wow.
They did a very, and it'll be very early on. And they're living in hell right now.
So when it comes
they're
to
living
pardons,
in hell. And they're policemen, and they're firemen, and they're soldiers, and they're carpenters and electricians, and they're great people. Many of them are just great people.
It's a great answer, and I think it's the right answer. To hold everybody into the same bucket, to say that every single person is an insurrectionist and every single person is a part of a violent mob is just not accurate. But we've seen essentially a blanket application of some of the most stringent, harshest sentencing rules applied towards the J6 defendants. They're singling them out and still prosecuting them years after the whole thing happened. And they're not letting up. They're asking for more money. They're asking for more prosecutors. They want to double down on it. And we just finished with one of the biggest trials, the Proud Boys seditious conspiracy trial, which I believe is going to be snowballed into another prosecution against Trump. So it makes sense to me that he would review cases on a case-by-case basis. People who were actually violent, who were causing real serious damage, should not be eligible for an immediate pardon, but should be applied. We want the same standards applied to them as everybody else in the country. That's fair. The same standards that the BLMers got, the same standards that Antifa got. No problems with that. That can be acceptable. The problem is that's not what's happening. And so the pardon power can be brought into effect to remedy a prior wrong that was enacted by another agency. You can correct it. That's why we have it. That's why it exists, to correct the wrongs. And so Trump, I think, is well within his right to use it. And I think it's a good political answer. I think an overbroad answer would have been to say everybody gets a pardon. But it's a careful response, and I appreciate it. He also got asked a follow-up question about January 6th. And a big criticism against Trump has been his delayed reaction, so-called. I don't know what they wanted him to do there. It would have been nice if they would have complied with his request to bring in the National Guard and fortify the Congressional building before any of this took place, but they declined it. In fact, Mayor Muriel Bowser did the day before, said, don't you dare send the National Guard in to secure the premises. But Trump brought receipts when they were trying to castigate him for being slow and not caring on January 6th. He reminds them that's not true.
So when they went to the Capitol and they were breaking into the Capitol, smashing windows, injuring police officers, why did it take you 3 hours to...
You mean alongside Ray Epps?
...tell them to go home?
I don't believe it did. Oh, let me pull it out. I have to pull it out.
Get it. Pull it out. Here it is.
So if you look at, on January 5th, the day before, I said, please support our Capitol Police and law enforcement. They are truly on the side of our country. Stay peaceful. Stay peaceful. This was the day before, and this was in the form of Twitter. Now use Truth Social. I think it's far superior, okay? I hope everybody's on Truth. If you look January 6th, this is before 2:30. I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. This is right after, as it was happening. But what happened is they took it down. I don't know why. I think they took it down because it was so good. They didn't like it being up there.
Yeah, well, they wanted to box him in.
This is, and we didn't know until I got it back, because now I have 90 million people waiting for me to go back, but I'm on truth and I'm staying on truth. Listen, I am asking for everyone at the U.S. Capitol to remain peaceful. No violation. We want no violation. We want no violence. Remember, we are the party of law and order. Respect the law and our great men and women in blue. Thank you. That was at 2:30. That was very early.
Mr. President, I looked at the same time.
Yeah, so not good enough. Donald Trump should have done what Clavicle Girl claimed he did and actually take the clavicle of the Secret Service driver and rip the car and drive it over to the Capitol building and stand in front of the West Terrace and rip his chest shirt open and say, "Halt, Proud Boys! No insurrection today." These people are nuts. I don't know what else they want. They want every single delay, every single minute is Trump's fault, and he should be indicted and arrested immediately for it, even though it was their own security failures that contributed to the catastrophe. Now, another line of questioning came in from Mar-a-Lago, the question about classified documents. Even though Joe Biden has buckets of classified documents stashed around from when he didn't even have legitimate authorization to have them, the question still remains about Trump. And where did the documents come from when they were found at Mar-a-Lago? Here's Ms. Collins.
I was negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely
negotiate
left group
with
of
them.
people. Extremely left. And I was negotiating with
They're
them.
not
All of a
left,
sudden,
they're
they
bipartisan.
raided my house.
Listen to her.
They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's
All right. We'll listen to it and then we'll break it down again.
the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return
Are
them.
you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to. You're
Gosh.
a nasty person, I'll tell you. Yeah.
Can you answer why you...
All right, so we'll pick up the answer. He will go through the answer in a minute. But I want to let's break this down a little bit because there's a lot to unpack here.
Negotiating with NARA. Do you know what NARA is?
The National Archives.
Extremely.
Head librarian Deborah Stidel Wall. She was the one who was very agitated when Trump said, "You got a lot of buildings and there's a lot of books in this building." She didn't like that. So NARA, the head librarians,
You don't
Extremely
negotiate
left group
with
of
them.
people.
she said, "You don't negotiate with them." I guess that means they're in charge of the president. They just decide what is. They decide, hey, those are our documents. So if they come and they say, those are part of Trump's presidential records that we are entitled to, those are not Donald Trump's personal records to which he's entitled, they are superior to the president. Okay, this is the same argument that we've been lampooning here for, I don't know, ever since the August 8th, ever since the raid happened at Mar-a-Lago. Telling these people, if that's true, then the National Archives, Deborah Stidel Wall, is more powerful than Donald Trump. Wow, how does that work? And you know why we know that that doesn't work? Because it's logically inconsistent, number one, but they have a hard time reconciling that because to them, anything is power, that they want to be power as long as it hurts Trump. But we have case law that supports this because we had the same judge from the DC Circuit who gave us the ruling over the Clinton sock drawer case. Shout out to Judicial Watch for dragging that one out. In that case, there was a challenge by Judicial Watch that said, we want access to those documents. Those are presidential records. Clinton said, no, those are personal records. And the judge said, who am I to interfere and decide? You think I'm more powerful as a judiciary than the president? No, rightfully so. And the president is the head of the executive branch, which is where the National Archives resides. So I get so irritated with this talking point that you don't negotiate with NARA. All of this was being negotiated. They sent negotiators down there, in there, to have a conversation with him, and he accepted them in good faith and popped his head into the room. And then they used that meeting to gain intel about other ways that they could charge him because the whole thing was corrupt. And then he let them go in good faith, and they raided him after the fact. That's negotiating with them, Kaitlan. And this face. Let's continue.
Extremely left. And I was negotiating with
They're
them.
not
All of a
left,
sudden,
they're
they
Yes, they are left. Every federal agency is left. Just look at them.
raided my house. They didn't raid the house of Joe Biden. They didn't raid Obama.
But Joe Biden didn't ignore a subpoena to get those documents back like you.
No, Joe Biden had them from his Senate career. Why did he have access to those documents? Why did they leave the skiff? He had no reason to have those documents at all. His house should have been raided immediately because there was not even a legitimate claim to them. Trump at least had presidential records. Trump at least had other privileges that he could pull out of his back pocket and use. Joe Biden didn't have any. So the FBI, as soon as they knew that that happened, there was probable cause that a crime had been committed right there. Why didn't they raid his other properties? Why didn't they go raid the home of Hunter Biden that the FBI has also been knowledgeable about his criminality, given the fact that they had the Hunter Biden laptop since 2019, in addition to the fact they had gun charges that they were contemplating? All of it was known. So Trump once again is being singled out, but these talking points, they just drop them like very quickly. And they're pretty good at just spitting them out because they've got teleprompters and things. And we'll listen to Jake Tapper, who's going to do the same thing. Somebody's typing all of these Trump bullet points into a teleprompter for Jake. We'll get there in a minute.
And so that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you...
All right, so that's the first part of it. Let's pick this up for the actual answer, the explanation in part two.
To get those documents back like
Joe
you
Biden
did. And so
took
that's the question.
1,850 boxes.
But that's the question that investigators have, I think, is why you held on to those documents when you knew the federal government was seeking them and then had given you a subpoena to return them.
Are you ready? Are you ready? Can I talk?
Yeah, what's
You
the
mind?
answer?
Do you mind?
I would like for you to answer the question.
Okay, it's very simple to answer.
That's why I asked it.
It's very simple to, you're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you
simple.
held on to the documents?
I was negotiating, and we were talking to NARA, that's Washington, to bring whatever they want. They can have whatever they want. When we left Washington, we had the boxes lined up on the sidewalk outside for everybody. People are taking pictures of them. Everybody knew we were taking those boxes. And the GSA, the government service, the GSA was the one taking them. They brought them down to Mar-a-Lago. We were negotiating with NARA. All of a sudden, they raid our house.
Right.
When Biden had his documents, he won't give back the 1,850 boxes. And you're going to find some real gems in there.
But it was
From his
Biden
Senate.
who
Can't have
alerted
all
them that
these
he had
different
the
sets of-
documents.
all
The
these
National
different
Archives
sets of-
reached out to you to get your documents back. Why did you not turn them over when you got a subpoena?
Because
You don't want to talk about the Biden docs. Yeah, don't want to talk about the Biden docs. We have a pretty good sneaking suspicion here what happened with the National Archives and the FBI. They were just essentially setting it up. They knew when they went down there that they were going to be looking around. They had a mole at Mar-a-Lago who was reporting on the skiff and all the different things, and they just jumped right into it. But now that Joe Biden has been alleged and been investigated with the same violations and the same special counsel, his explanation is so innocent, even though it's less legitimate from the very get-go. He was a senator, Trump was the president. So nasty person indeed. Now we have one final segment on an issue before we talk about the media and their meltdown on this. But Trump was asked about Ukraine and Russia. Here's what he said.
absolutely
Do you want
over.
Ukraine to win this war?
I don't think in terms of winning and losing. I think in terms of getting it settled so we stop killing all these people and breaking down this country. Now,
She didn't like that answer.
Can I just follow up on that? You
But
said
one
you
of the
don't
things
think in
you have
terms
to
of
do is
winning
you
and
have to get
losing.
you have
Mr.
to get
President, can I
Europe.
just follow up on that because that's a really important
Excuse me,
statement
let me
that you
just
just
follow
made
up.
there. Can you say if you want Ukraine or Russia to win this war?
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You
24
need the power
hours,
of the
baby.
presidency to do it.
But you won't say that you want Ukraine to win. You
know
said
what
when
I'll
you were
say?
in-
I'll
when you
say
were in
this.
office-
I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and they
that's not
should
an
be.
answer about who
And they
should
should
win the war.
equalize. They have plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO.
But I'm
when I
asking you
sat
about
down, I got
Ukraine
them
right
to
now,
put up
Mr.
hundreds
President.
of.
Not going to answer that question. She really wants him to pin him down in a particular direction, and he's just not going to do it. She kept digging and digging, and here's what Trump said in follow-up.
What do you? Can I just follow up on that? You said or Russia to win this war.
I want everybody to stop dying. They're dying. Russians and Ukrainians. I want them to stop dying. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. I'll have it done. You need the power of the presidency.
Will you put
to
a
do
pin
it.
But you
on-
won't say that you want Ukraine to win.
Where's
You
the
know what
pin?
I'll say? I'll say this. I want Europe to put up more money because they're in for 20 billion. We're in for 170, and
that's
they
not
should
an
be.
answer about who
And they
should
should
win the war.
equalize. They have plenty of money. They should equalize. I got with NATO.
But I'm
when I
asking you
sat down,
about
I got
Ukraine
them
right
to
now,
put up
Mr.
hundreds
President.
of billions of dollars that they weren't paying under Obama and Bush and all of these other presidents. That's why they're able to help them fight the war because of the money I got. But I
let's
want
talk about
Europe.
what's happening in Ukraine,
excuse me.
Mr.
I want
President.
Europe to put up more money because they're laughing at us. They think we're a bunch of jerks. We're spending $170 billion for faraway land, and they're right next door to that land, and they're in for 20. I don't think so.
When it comes to what's
And we couldn't even get $5 billion for a wall here in the United States. And so she really wants him to make that Ukraine pin front and center. Did you change your profile picture to a Ukraine flag, Trump? Just relax, okay? We're not doing your stupid game here with that stuff. No war. Stop with the dying. Stop playing this game like it's like a COVID scoreboard again. Nonsense. Good answers from Donald Trump during the town hall. Very important topics, and he's making the most sense of anyone we're hearing right now. Now, let's check in with the media reaction. Media absolutely melted down after the Trump town hall TKO. AOC condemning CNN, calling them shameful for daring to air her political nemesis, Donald Trump. We also have reaction from Daniel Goldman. Byron Donalds did the defense of Donald Trump in the Lion's Den on CNN, and the focus group from CNN wasn't too much perturbed about anything Donald Trump said. But here we start the media cry fest with Jake Tapper on CNN. And somebody wrote a nice script for him when he was waiting for Trump to finish. They put it on the teleprompter, and here's what he read for us.
Thanks, everyone.
We're looking there at St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. Tonight's CNN Town Hall, moderated by Kaitlan Collins, the first of the 2024 presidential campaign, is now in the books. Good evening from New York.
Good evening, Anderson Cooper.
Oh, from Washington, and it was an interesting night. Mr. Trump's first lie was told just seconds into the night with his false familiar claim that the 2020 election was, quote, a rigged election. And the falsehoods kept coming fast and furious about the January 6th insurrection, about the threat to Vice President Pence, about Pence's ability to overturn the election, about COVID, about the economy, and more. He called a black law enforcement officer a thug. He said people here in Washington, D.C. at Chinatown don't speak English. He attacked Kaitlan as a nasty woman because she was trying to get him to answer a question. Perhaps most chillingly, the day after a 9-person jury of his peers in New York found him liable for sexual battery and defamation and ordered him to pay writer E. Jean Carroll $5 million, he made fun of her account of her sexual assault.
And her vagina
and many
cat.
in the audience laughed.
Yeah.
And applauded. The former president making his...
Yeah, her vagina cat. It was a funny comment. Why would somebody name their cat vagina, hot vagina, fachina, as Trump says? And hey, Coop, you know that this woman's kind of a weirdo. You had her on your show. We remember, we've got the video footage of you saying, cut E. Jean, when she was saying rape is sexy on your show. So she says that rape is sexy, and Trump is making fun of her vagina cat, and you both are going to have a hysterical cry fest on CNN. Give me a break.
His first appearance tonight on this network since the 2016 election. He spoke with and took questions from New Hampshire Republican and undeclared voters who plan to take part in the GOP primary, and it took place just a day after, as Jake referenced, Manhattan federal jury found him liable of sexually abusing and defaming writer E. Jean Carroll.
Wow, two very broken men. Very difficult days ahead. now that Donald Trump seemingly is catching his stride with CNN Townhall. Now, over across the street at MSNBC, the Joe Brzezinski show, he is the husband of Mika Brzezinski, who's actually in charge. On MSNBC, they're having a rough morning too. They woke up and you can just look at Joe. He's all crushed. Listen.
It was a disgraceful performance.
Disgrace.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm constantly telling people not to catastrophize over Trump, that he's.
Listen to this guy. Yes, it was. Yes.
It was a disgraceful performance. Yes. I'm constantly telling people not to catastrophize over Trump, that he's actually going to lose because he keeps drilling down deeper and deeper into his base. But it is. I can't believe I'm going to use catastrophizing language here. But it was disgraceful on every level. It showed. I wouldn't say it's dangerous for democracy, because we passed that a long time ago. But it showed the corrosive effects of Trumpism over 8 years. And I've got to say,
come on, Joe.
The most shocking part was an audience.
You can do it.
Who cheered on a president who tried to overturn American democracy. An audience that
the whole democracy almost overturned.
Mocked and ridiculed a woman who a jury of her peers, Donald Trump's peers, found had been sexually assaulted. Those Americans there last night turned that into a punchline.
Wow.
Laughed
Country's
and dismissed. Cops getting the shit kicked out of them on January the 6th. Beaten up over and over again.
By Ray Epps?
Calling the
FBI's
cop
most wanted violent?
a thug who actually was trying to stop people from the House floor from being killed.
Who shot her without
I could go on and on. Basically saying he would turn over Ukraine to Vladimir Putin. And
That's not what he said at all.
On John Meacham on every front. You could go piece by piece by piece to talk about how breathtakingly dangerous what we saw was last night. This virus of lies that's been loosened on the American people.
He's still going.
But what we saw last night was a propagandist. And it was a propagandist spewing lies repeatedly over and over and over and over and over again. And an audience, an American audience, lapping it up. This isn't Putin's Russia. This is Trump's slice of America.
I thought it was a damn good town hall. I enjoyed every minute of it.
And what I saw last night, at least, was as chilling as anything I've seen on television since.
As chilling as anything he's ever seen on television. Did you hear that?
Since January the 6th.
Since January the 6th. Gosh, talk about the melodrama. One more.
Chilling as anything I've seen on television since January the 6th.
Wow.
Yeah. What we're looking at is that his reality has become.
Yeah, talk about reality. These guys are kind of delusional, aren't they? A little bit disconnected from reality as well. Donald Trump's town hall was the most chilling thing since this guy has seen since January 6th. He covers the news. It was a town hall. It was a political conversation about issues, and CNN brought up most of the questions. Now, other people in Congress are also upset about this. AOC in particular, you know, she's mad when she's tweeting and making media appearances. Here's what she said.
I know you said earlier that you will not comment on the platforming of such atrocious disinformation, but I would. I think it was a profoundly irresponsible decision. I don't think that I would be doing my job if I did not say that. And what we saw tonight was a series of extremely irresponsible decisions that put a sexual abuse victim at risk, that put that person at risk in front of a national audience, and I could not have disagreed with it more. It was shameful.
Shameful from CNN, and AOC is condemning them. She also said there is simply no way simply no way CNN can feign ignorance about the fact that they set up an assault victim to be targeted and attacked on national television a day after the verdict. So Trump shouldn't be allowed to speak if he has, I think, anybody that his speech might impact is the new standard. People were sounding the alarm about this exact scenario. Trump needs to be silenced. They let it happen anyway without a plan. Says the choice to platform election disinformation, lies about January 6th, totally unchecked and reckless claims about abortion. They need to take ownership of what just happened. CNN, this cannot be normalized. It's dangerous. Said it was a disservice to democracy and a major harm for women, survivors, and people who rely on reproductive rights. And I know this is AOC and we all just kind of dismiss what she says, but this is going to a huge audience that she has. And these are people who are saying that your speech, okay, things that you say as a political person are actually harming people. And she calls it a major harm. Women, survivors, people who rely on reproductive rights. CNN allowing this to be treated like a joke to an applauding audience is egregious. At this point, it's not about Trump. We know him. It's about the programming. So she doesn't want Trump platformed at all. And people keep throwing this around, this sexual assault thing, like it's a criminal charge. It's not. This was a civil case. This was a civil case with a preponderance of the evidence standard. 51% more likely than not, the jury said yes. And it's a stretch at that. And the other claim, Trump has been exonerated of rape, totally. So why doesn't she come out here and say, hey, how about we protect the falsely accused against rape charges? Where's all the protection of false rape survivors who've been accused of false rape, allegations? None of it. So it's all just a political show. I mean, she's so ridiculous. Daniel Goldman is also out here saying, why did CNN host a Trump rally? They don't want the news media to even act like the news media. They don't want the news media to interview people who are actually running for president because they're scared that platforming is more powerful than their counter-platforming. So they'd rather just silence them because that's how they operate. They censor and they just shut people down because they cannot win in the arena of ideas. CNN is defending their decision, as they should. If they actually want to be a news agency, one of the best things to do is to report on the front runner of the Republican Party primary, who's a prior president, who very well may likely be the next president based on recent polls, if they hold. CNN chairman defends the decision to host the Trump town hall. This is the individual behind it. Chris Licht, new chairman of CNN, issued a robust defense of the decision, held a network-wide editorial call, and he congratulated the moderator. He said Kaitlan did a masterful performance, but he acknowledged the public backlash. He says, look, we all know covering Trump is messy and tricky, and it's going to continue to be messy and tricky, but it's our job. Which is true. Do your job. I absolutely unequivocally believe America was served very well by what we did last night. He's right. People woke up. They know what the stakes are in this election in a way they didn't before. Right. And all of the people who are saying that this is harmful to Trump, that America got to see more of Trump on display, that all of these digs against E. Jean Carroll and about pardoning the J6ers and all of these things, if they're really so toxic, if they're really so horrible, if America is so outraged by Mar-a-Lago and by Trump pardoning protesters, then why aren't AOC and other people, and if they really think that this E. Jean Carroll case is so egregious, why don't they just let Trump out there? They should give him 6 hours. Hey, tell me more about what you think about E. Jean Carroll. Here you go. Here's the microphone. Go hog wild for an hour. And they should platform it all day because people, first of all, want to watch it, and it would be spreading around the news, and it would be harming Trump's cause in their minds. But they're not panicked, are they? They're panicked that Trump was out there making those jokes because it lampoons their very, very hysterical narratives that aren't legitimately hysterical. They walk around like J6 is the biggest thing that's ever happened in this country. The biggest thing since the Civil War, they said. Trump turns it into not that, and his persuasion is more powerful than theirs. So the only way that they can deal with this is to just shut him up. If it really was a big problem, then they would just let him speak. But it's not. He's convincing other people, and he's breaking the stranglehold of the mainstream media because the mainstream media has a consistent pattern of lying, and people are sick of it. The Town Hall, which aired in prime time, they said, featured a fusillade of falsehoods. But CNN defended it, rightfully so, and that is good news. And so we have more reaction. Byron Donalds was doing some nice defense work for Donald Trump on with CNN. Let's listen to what he had to say.
But a couple of things. First of all, town halls are for the voters, not for the press, not for the person who's the moderator. Kaitlan spent more time interjecting her own viewpoints or her own views on the situation.
Excuse me, those are actually facts.
Now, are you guys not going to interject your views on me, or do I get a chance to speak now?
If you're speaking falsely, those were facts.
Hey, Coop.
The town hall is for the president to speak to the voters of New Hampshire, not for this back and forth with media. That's number one. Hold on, that's number one. Number two.
Coop is acting like Kaitlan Collins right now.
With respect to Ukraine, I totally disagree. He did not say he was just going to give over Ukraine the way you intimate, Van. He did not say that.
He didn't say
what he said.
He did not say that he would stand for a victory.
What he said is that he would actually look for a solution to end it quickly. He put 24 hours on it, but let's be very clear. What Joe Biden has done has been a disaster because initially with Ukraine, Joe Biden wanted to give Vladimir Zelensky a ride out of Dodge. He wanted to give him a plane ride, and it wasn't until people in Moscow, in Ukraine, here in the United States said this invasion is wrong that Joe Biden reversed course.
Do you want a victory in Ukraine? Do you want a victory in Ukraine?
I'm just trying to respond to everything that's been coming up on the table. Last thing, let me say this. We spent 22, 23 minutes talking about January 6th. We could have been talking about a whole lot of other issues instead of doing that for the first half hour or so. But let me be very clear. What was said in this town hall about National Guard troops that were authorized by Kaitlan was wrong. I'm on the Oversight Committee.
Nice.
I was in 2 hearings on January 6th. It was testified in oversight that Donald Trump authorized National Guard troops on January 4. He followed up in a call with then acting Secretary of Defense on January 5, trying to see where the deployment was on those troops. That is testimony in the Oversight Committee. Everybody testified in Oversight Committee when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House, except one organization, and that was the Capitol Police.
Did you read the
because
Secretary
Nancy
of Defense's
Pelosi would
book?
not allow that. I'm telling you.
Secretary of Defense's book? Did he read Stephen Sun's book? There were all sorts of failures. And Byron Donalds is exactly right. We have the letter from Mayor Muriel Bowser saying, Donald Trump, don't you send your National Guard into my city. And then they want to blame him for not being prepared.
What was testified to in the Oversight Committee under oath.
But let me just correct you, because what Kaitlan was saying was what the former Secretary of Defense wrote in his book. He said the president did not.
I am telling you what he testified to under oath in the Oversight Committee.
Congressman, can I just ask?
Are the facts? Go ahead.
Can I just say Byron Donalds is running the whole table? Are you watching this? Boom, 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 boom. Who's next?
You do acknowledge Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, correct?
Again, we're going to continue to talk about 2020.
No, I mean, it's a direct
right
question.
now, hold on. Let me tell you why most voters are frankly kind of tired of y'all bringing this up. Inflation, border.
You don't have the courage to express your opinion about what happened.
I'm a Republican voter. I'm a Republican voter.
Voters want to talk about inflation, the border, fentanyl, the debt ceiling, foreign policy. If you want to talk about the 2020 election, let's talk about this. We do know that Mark Elias was in many jurisdictions suing to actually change election procedures, which, by the way, is at the hands of the state legislature in every state, according to the Constitution. Not in the hands of courts, not in the hands of the Supreme Court, the state legislature. We do know that to be a fact. We do know that
You won't state your opinion about factually what happened in the 2020
election. You guys want me to make a statement. This is, Frank, let me tell you right now. This is what's frustrating to a lot of people. You want me to state it the way you want me to state it.
No, I don't.
I am telling you.
I want you to just answer the question.
And the reasons behind why certain people look at the 2020 election the way that they do.
I understand why some people believe it.
Moving forward into 2024, a couple of things are very, very clear. The nation is a mess.
Amazing.
Our border is overrun. Inflation is crippling every family. Republican, Democrat, Independent. Those are the facts of the matter in 2024, not 2020.
Can I just ask you a question?
Not 2020.
Beautifully done. Byron Donalds, man, he has been on fire lately. And he ran the whole table. They were asking him all sorts of different questions, almost like he was a candidate or something. Like, is he running for president that I didn't know about? Were they asking him about these issues because he's running for something? We have questions about how Kaitlan Collins performed with Donald Trump and the questions she asked him. And he's commenting on a lot of the performance. The reactions from Donald Trump came about because of their questions. And he's making the point that there are a lot of other things to talk about, but he's not running for office. And I think he's right. I think a lot of people are over the J6 stuff. I think that they've been J6 to death already. They're tired of all the accusations against Donald Trump and all the hystericism. You can only say the same thing so many times before people stop believing you. It's like the boy who cried wolf in reverse. And people are getting wise to it. Donald Trump is not what the media claims him to be. And this focus group confirmed a lot of that. While the media cries about Donald Trump talking about 2020, he won't let it go. He can't move on. It's the first thing they ask him.
Does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first. This is Jonathan Leslie. He's 40, Republican, voted for Trump twice. How do you feel about those lines?
What's up, Jonathan?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election.
Yeah, first question.
Rather than current stuff.
So don't you think he could say it's time for me to start talking about 2024 and not lies that aren't true?
Couldn't the media ask him a question about 2024?
Well, there were questions, but you're right. That was the first thing, but that's something that was on our mind.
Boom.
That's why I was asked first. Mike McGlaughlin.
Shout out to Jonathan. Home run to Jonathan. Let's watch that again. Why does Donald Trump keep talking about 2020? Shouldn't he move on from this? Hey, morons, maybe if you asked him a question about 2024, instead of a question about 2020, he would answer a question about 2024. Oh, yeah, I forgot. That was kind of our first question. Good point.
Does it bother you that he keeps talking about 2020 and not 2024? I'll ask you first. This is Jonathan Leslie. He's 40, Republican, voted for Trump twice. How do you feel about those lies?
So I feel like part of it's also the media narrative, as you guys asked him the first question at the town hall about the 2020 election, rather than current stuff.
So don't you think he could say it's time for me to start talking about 2024 and not lies that aren't true?
Couldn't the media ask him a question about 2024?
Well, there were questions, but you're right. That was the first thing, but that's something that was on our mind.
Oh!
And that's why I was asked first. Mike McGlaughlin.
Out of here. Get out of here. Yeah, actually, you're right. Yeah, we are kind of idiots. Yeah, okay. Well, I better ask somebody else about something else. Madam, can you tell me, since you're a female and you're also blonde, can you tell me how offended are you about E. Jean Carroll being abused by Donald Trump? Clearly, you're outraged. Your words.
Here he is at this town hall today. I've never met her before, and you're just making fun of her. How did that make you feel as a woman?
Yeah, as a woman, tell us.
I didn't really care.
Why didn't you care?
I don't know enough about the case. Women can be victims of abuse. Women can also make up stories. I mean, we see it all the time. So I don't know. All of these situations where people are coming out 20, 30 years later, I don't listen to it.
One more question for you, Mike Pence. He said regarding January 6th that he doesn't think Pence was in danger. He doesn't feel the
Man, whatever. She wins nonchalant of the day.
You're just making fun of her. How did that make you feel as a woman?
I didn't really care.
Whatever.
Why didn't you care?
I don't know enough about the case. Women can be victims of abuse. Women can also make up stories. I mean, we see it all the time. So I don't know.
Coming out of Manchester, New Hampshire, not that big of a deal because women make crap up all the time. And that is what a lot of people think is happening with E. Jean Carroll. So the media melts down. There will be a lot more hystericism from these people as the election continues to unfold in front of our eyes. Trump will be out there, presumably a lot more in front of the media. They can only keep him hidden for so long. And now that CNN has cracked the shell a little bit, is the rest of the media going to start bringing him back on? We'll see. Of course, we'll continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing, and thank you for liking this video wherever it is you're watching it. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next one. All right, my friends. Well, let's change gears and let's talk about what is happening over with the FBI, because this story is fun. Let's see. Yeah, let's cue this one up. I don't think I opened. This was the prior document. And I wanted to get this queued up. This was the prior subpoena that they sent. And so I wanted to do a quick refresher on this before we look at the response. And here is what we've got. So now that we've got it, the FBI denies Congress access to a very important document. Remember, James Comer and Chuck Grassley sent a subpoena to Christopher Wray and the FBI demanding access to this document. It's an item that memorializes a conversation that somebody had with the FBI, allegedly implicating Joe Biden and the Biden crime family and a whole bunch of stuff. The FBI got the subpoena. This is what it looked like. It was delivered, handed over May 3rd, coming out of the Oversight Committee and Accountability Committee, directed specifically to Christopher Wray. And there was a cover letter that we read through in full, but very briefly. This says that on May 3rd, we sent over a subpoena. We want the FBI required to produce all the FD 1023 forms created in a particular time frame. The committee is considering legislation. We're seeking transparency into family members and so on. House Rule 10 gives us a lot of authority to do this. Give us your documents. Signed sincerely, James Comer. And attached to this was the subpoena. You see, hey, FBI, Director Christopher Wray, you are hereby commanded to appear before the Oversight Committee on May 10th, that time has passed, and produced the items that we want. In particular, all FD 1023 forms, anything containing the term Biden, we want it. We know you've got it because they told us you've got it, so give it over to us. That is what the FBI had. We saw the May 10th deadline came and passed, and the FBI, Christopher Wray, sent a response back over to Congress, basically telling them, you're not getting these items. Here's what he said back on May 10th. Coming from the Office of the Assistant Director, out of the FBI, U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Congressional Affairs. This document is 6 pages. It is drafted by the Acting Assistant Director at the FBI. His name is Christopher Dunham. So the letter goes back over to Congress, and he says, hey, dear Chairman James Comer from the Oversight Committee, says this letter is responding to your subpoena, the one that we just looked at. As this was your first communication with the FBI seeking this information, please know the FBI is committed to beginning the constitutionally mandated accommodation process. We got a lot of work to do before we can comply, you know. The FBI is committed to working to provide the committee the informations necessary, but we also have to protect our executive branch confidentiality interests. And so the FBI now seeks and appreciates the opportunity to inform you of our confidentiality interests. It's a nice way of saying we're going to tell you why we're not giving you the documents. We're committed to working together through this process. Oh, it's so patronizing. We know that we need to avoid the polarization of disputes. All right. Now, your letters and accompanying subpoenas, they seek the Biden 1023 forms. By way of background, just so you know, James, sensitive law enforcement materials like the 1023 confidential human source reporting form, the one that you've expressed interest in there, James, are critical to the FBI's faithful execution of the laws, and they're appropriate for national security. The form is used to record unverified reporting from a CHS. Reporting by CHSs is one form of very highly sensitive law enforcement officers' capabilities. And we work with our sources in many forms. Now, as is clear, they're going to give us some background on the CHS stuff. CHSs often provide information to the FBI at great risk to themselves. The information they provide can also create significant risks to others who might be referenced in their reporting. So we have to protect their identities. We can't give you information. They might be harmed. And some of the most valuable CHSs maintain this protected relationship for decades. And it's often just categorically highly sensitive as well. Significant harm to investigative work could come from giving you the 1023s. If we let you see them, we could have our work harmed. It's also critical to keep the FBI's methods for identifying our CHSs. And these methods, which facilitate the FBI, help us find violent gangs and organized crime families, except the Biden crime family, they don't look at that one, terrorist cells, and other dangerous organizations. And so for these good reasons, the Department of Defense policy restrict and strictly limit how we can give this information outside of the FBI. We can't give you anything. Information provided by CHSs also implicates longstanding confidentiality issues. Investigative reports include leads, and we can't tell you how those things work. These are fundamental principles. And so they also tell us that the information is also unverified and by definition incomplete. An FD 1023 form documents information as told to a line FBI agent. Recording the information does not validate the information, okay? So even if you get access to this document, doesn't mean it's true. We don't establish its credibility. We don't weigh it against other information. The mere existence of the document would establish little beyond the fact that a CHS source provided it and the FBI recorded it. In other words, we receive information all the time and we may not act on it. It comes from drug traffickers, organized crime, except the Biden family, and even terrorists. And so the FBI says, you have asked for what you say is a precise description of an alleged criminal scheme contained in a single 1023. You express concern that the FBI has inappropriately failed to disclose a report to the American people. It is critical to the integrity of the entire criminal justice process and to our fulfillment of the law that the FBI avoid revealing information, including unverified or incomplete information, that could harm investigations, not going to give it to you for that reason, that could prejudice prosecutions or proceedings, unfairly violate privacy or reputational interests, or create misimpressions in the public. For reasons, we're not going to give these up. Often, even confirming that it exists causes harm. That is why it's long been standard practice to neither confirm or deny a fact. Thus, your request for a single report that you say includes a precise description risks harms that our rules protect against. And as noted, we have to adhere to our rules. Now, to be clear, they say the FBI does recognize Congress's authority, which is just so funny. They don't. Christopher Wray has to go on his airplane. Even so, the DOJ has long taken the position that Congress's authority to seek information does not lead inexorably to the conclusion that they must give it. The integrity, they call, of their work at the FBI, which is laughable, is requiring us to preserve a separation of powers. We knew that argument was coming up. Executive branch cannot effectively investigate if Congress is commandeering the executive branch, which is the best argument of all of these. But it's also the same argument that they bring up every time. And Congress can say, okay, well, if you're not going to let us have oversight, we're just going to defund you, right? That would be the remedy. Whether Congress has the balls to do that or does it, we'll see. It also would not be appropriate for Congress in seeking to secure information to usurp our role as law enforcement. There are many kinds of law enforcement sensitive informations, not just 1023s, that are created, and those are our purview. So they say, hey, James, we hope that this overview of our program, idiot, and our 1023 reports help explain to you morons in Congress why the FBI and the department have strong interests in protecting this information and why reviewing unverified 1023 information without protections would undermine these interests. We also hope that you understand that keeping this kind of source information free from the reality or the perception of improper influence is appropriate. So we have provided you with this background to move forward in the accommodation process consistent with that process, we anticipate the committee may wish to discuss its need for the information you requested and would be pleased to coordinate so we can accommodate your request without violating our law enforcement and national security obligations. Sincerely, your friend, Christopher Dunham, Acting Assistant Director for the Office of Congressional Affairs. It's a very, very passive-aggressive way of saying, we're not giving you the documents. We can't give you anything. Send us something else. We've provided this. We anticipate you may wish to discuss its need, and we'd be pleased to coordinate about how we can accommodate what you need, but you're not getting all the 1023s. You're not getting them from us. This is the FBI. We run this country in conjunction with the CIA and the rest of the bureaucratic state, and we don't listen to Congress unless we agree with Congress. Unless you happen to be Liz Cheney and you create your own select committee, then you can basically do whatever you want. But the FBI is a little bit of a different beast, and they are responding, and we'll see what happens. Congress will have to do something about this, either whimper away with their tails between their legs, file something in court, or pass legislation or do something in their own branch. We'll see what happens, but they are responding. Comer and Grassley reply to the FBI letter. They say, while the FBI has failed to produce the specific document by subpoena deadlines, their offer to provide an accommodation process in response to our legitimate request, guess what? Indicates the document is real. So they tried not to confirm either or deny the existence of it. But the fact that they're telling us, give us a call, let's talk about it in another way, leads us to believe it's real. So the question remains, what did the FBI do to investigate very serious allegations from an apparent trusted FBI source that was implicating then Vice President Biden? Today's letter from the FBI raises additional questions, including whether the FBI has an open investigation based on the allegations. Is that why they can't give it over? Because it's pending? The American people pay the FBI salaries they're entitled to a fulsome response. Comer said, it's clear from the FBI's response that the unclassified record the Oversight Committee subpoenaed exists, but they're refusing to provide it. We've asked the FBI not only to provide the record, but also to inform us what it did to investigate these claims. The FBI has failed to do both. The FBI's position is trust, but you aren't allowed to verify. That's unacceptable. We plan to follow up with the FBI, says Comer, and we expect compliance with the subpoena. Now, we know what the form is. Describes an alleged criminal scheme involving then Vice President Biden and a foreign national relating to the exchange of money. Apparently, it has a precise description of how the alleged scheme was employed as well as its purpose. And so it is a very, very juicy document, and we'd like to get our hands on it. So would Chuck Grassley and James Comer, and we'll see whether they are able to do that. The FBI is saying they have an accommodation process. Maybe that means they'll just let them come in and look around and maybe not give them the document. They'll be able to report on it. We'll see. But that is the update. FBI once again denying Congress. We'll see if Congress digs its heels in. And of course, we'll continue to cover this. Thank you for subscribing wherever you're watching. Thank you for liking this video. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next subpoena from Congress. All right, my friends. Well, that is it for us on the day. Whew, we covered a lot of ground here. FBI is ignoring Congress, or whatever. Our document's not yours. Jake Tapper crying, upset that Donald Trump is Donald Trump, I guess. Byron Donalds defending Trump. CNN town hall focus groups not even concerned. AOC saying the whole thing is shameful. And Joe Brzezinski having a PTSD event episode. Donald Trump talked about E. Jean Carroll. They're considering suing him a third time. Could you imagine doing another trial? J6 pardons are on the table for Donald Trump. He said that the Mar-a-Lago documents were all in process of being negotiated, which sounds right, before the FBI decided to raid him. And so we covered a lot of grounds. And Now it's time to hear from you, my friends. And so we'd love to see what you have to say, courtesy, or we've got many friends over at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We've got our friends on YouTube. We're going to see what's up on Rumble. We're going to say hello to Twitter. And of course, if you are a member, we are going over to our members only after party as soon as we are done here. So stick around. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to grab the Telegram link, which is where we're going to be going here in just a short minute. And so let's say hello to the super chats over from our friends on YouTube. Thank you, everybody. Hey, Voice of the People was here getting us started. Says, I find it funny that stopping someone from assaulting people is illegal because he was homeless, but a homeless man that crapped on a pride flag goes to jail for hate crimes in the same city. I think I saw that headline. Somebody crapped on a pride flag. Where was that? San Francisco? I'm going to have to take a look. Good to see you, Voice of the People. All right, Sidecast says, hey, thank you for your work on behalf of the United States. Well, thank you, my friend, Sidecast. Yeah, thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Hey, you know, it's our country. We can't let them rip it away from us. We have, as humankind, worked too hard to get to an era of free speech and due process and Enlightenment values. We're not going to let them take it away. Thanks for being here. Tony Hey Munkets says all CNN did is prove how biased they are and also prove that they have an agenda to get Trump. I think that Kaitlan Collins, you know, was going that direction, but I think the fact that CNN hosted it, and I liked Chris Licht's response. It's like, we need to know this stuff. America needs to know it. And I think that ended up like one of Trump's biggest fragilities, one of the biggest areas where he might, you know, lose some momentum is if he doesn't have attention, if he sucks the oxygen out of the room. They tried to limit that in 2020 and it worked to a big extent. They had all the big tech platforms suppressing your tweets, suppressing your videos, our videos, suppressing your comments, suppressing your votes. None of that happened in 2016. And every post, every like on this video, every share, every post that you post on your Facebook, hey, this is my opinion. Hey, this is my opinion, is like a digital yard sign. And if they suppress all of those, nobody gets to see. Nobody gets to join in the conversation. And so the fact that CNN even allowed him on there, right, I think is a great step in the right direction because it's important. It's transparency. We want to see. And for all the Trump haters out there, wouldn't you want to see more of him? I'm all in favor of more Joe Biden. Like, let me just say that. Joe Biden, I'd love to see speaking all the time. Put him out there. He can say whatever lies he wants. I don't care. Lie on up. Put Joe Biden up on stage. Do a town hall with Joe Biden. He can lie about whatever he wants. He lies all the time about job rates and Afghanistan and all sorts of crap. I don't care. But we want to see him. I'm not going to I'm not going to come here on the next show like Jake Tapper. Democracy, like AOC. I don't care. Joe Biden's wrecking democracy. He's allowed to say it. We're allowed to have a conversation about it. In fact, I want to see more of him so that the rest of America can also see it too. This guy can't even function. So put him on there. Transparency and sunlight exposes all, and we get to see it. Now, thank you, Tony Hay. Leonard is in the house. Says Dems did the same thing with Trump and white supremacy in 2020. Trump kept denying that he was a racist, but the Dems kept pounding away anyways. Yeah, and they'll do the same thing with this abuse thing. A convicted abuser. Fred Petamonte says, thank you, Leonard. Fred says, did you know that Kaitlan started with Tucker at the Daily Caller? She was on Fox all the time bashing Soros, leftists, and Dems. A montage on YouTube. It's great. I did not know that. That's funny. What happens to people? Why do they go so nuts? Dolphin Fan is here. Says, Rob, do you know what the ratings were for CNN last night? No, but it was quite good, actually. I mean, I saw the numbers. I don't remember what they were off the top of my head, but they were good. They were good. I saw a chart on Twitter. I wouldn't even know what to search for to find it. I was going to try to find it. But there's a chart, and they were good. It was really good. I think it was one of CNN's biggest town halls that they've ever had. And it did well in the ratings. Good stuff. And that was from, hey, another one from Fred. Hey, Fred, You sent the same one in twice. The same question. So, I'll read it again, but you really should get another free super chat, you know. So send me a free message or something. I don't know how to make it up to you. So, did you know that Kaitlan started with Tucker at the Daily Caller? I did, yeah, because you super chatted that in the last super chat, 2 super chats ago. Just giving you a hard time, brother. Says she was on Fox all the time. I'm sure it was just an error. I'm sorry, you're going to get charged twice. But she did put a montage on YouTube, and it's great. Just Me says Byron Donalds took the whole table to school last. He did. One by one. Good comment from Just Me. Thank you for sending that one in. XRP Hitman's in the house, giving us the love emoji. Thank you, XRP. I appreciate you. And Carl Borcher says Bill Barr didn't say there wasn't any fraud. He just said there wasn't enough to overturn the election. Yeah, and that was, I think, his position for a long time. But then the criticisms against Bill Barr was, were you looking really for anything? Were you investigating anything at all? We also saw Tony Hay Munkets says, I also like that CNN put him on, but the way they went about it and what they said on the other shows afterwards, as they were just setting him up. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, I see what you mean. And I thought that might be the case too. You know, I wasn't sure how this whole thing was going to go. I was like, oh gosh, Trump could go in there and he could say or do something that is taken out of context and the media would just dunk on him. But I got to say, I think that did not happen. And if their plan was to do that, their reaction was, I think, shows that they don't think they were successful. If they were going to bring him in here and then have a whole panel of people just sit there around TV and dunk on him, Byron Donalds took them all to task on that one. Focus groups, like, not even a big deal. Most people don't care about those old stories anymore. 30 years old, 28 years ago? Are you kidding me? Even if it's just a recent jury verdict, it's 28 years ago. If you even believe it, right? So it just feels like it's much ado about nothing, and the American people are going to get sick of it. You can't continue to do reruns over and over and over again. Hey, Marlene Stewart. Marlene Stewart gifted 1 membership, and that means Matthew Payton is coming in the house. Thank you to Marlene Stewart. And Matthew Payton, welcome as amazing new members. We've got Trust 2 Kids sending in a nice Rumble rant. Thank you very much. Trust 2 Kids says, thanks for another great show. I appreciate you there. Thanks for joining us, Trust 2 Kids. And let's see who's over on Rumble. We've got Sammy JOS is over there. What's up, Sammy? User says Daniel Perry will surrender. Daniel Penny, oh my gosh, did he get charged? Daniel Penny got charged. Will surrender to NYP Friday morning to face a charge of manslaughter in the 2nd-degree subway choke. Dang it. I had a feeling it was going to be I had a feeling it was going to be 2nd degree because I read the statutes when we were talking about it on Megyn Kelly, and his lawyer wrote the letter that basically admitted to 2nd degree, where he said that he didn't intend to harm him, didn't intend to cause him harm. And I was thinking, okay, it doesn't really matter if you intended to or not. He didn't wake up intending to go kill somebody. That's not good if you do that. But you can also kill somebody through recklessness, through negligence. There's a lot of other ways to kill somebody. And so whether you did it or not is one question, but the intentionality behind it's another question. And they ceded ground, I think, on causation. I don't think that they should have ceded that ground. I wouldn't have said that he killed him at all. Because remember, George Floyd, we all thought it was Derek Chauvin's knee on the neck that was the actual cause of death, and then it via suffocation, asphyxiation, and it wasn't. There was, according to the coroner's report, it was a heart failure, essentially. He had arteriosclerosis and hypertension. He had fentanyl and methamphetamines in his system, and he had just gotten done doing a 6-minute wrestling match with the cops in the back of a police cruiser. So when you jump to conclusions about the causation of the death, that is not a wise thing to do. And I think that Penny's lawyers, when I read that statement, they were admitting causation. They were just saying, no, yeah, he killed him. He didn't mean to, but he did kill him. And I go, well, they're going to say that it's not intentional murder or reckless murder, but it's negligent or in second degree. It's not intentional. It's not crime of passion. You didn't wake up to do it. It was something that you shouldn't have done. And if he's not privileged, right? If this isn't a situation where he should be using self-defense, they're going to try to take away that privilege. It's going to be a messy case. So yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I figured it was going to happen. We talked about it a little bit on Megyn Kelly, and I had a feeling he was going to get charged because why wouldn't he? It's New York. It's Manhattan. It's Alvin Bragg. Great. So anyways, that's just terrible. We'll certainly dig into that. Hey, Mannix became a member. Says, come on, Joe, tell us how you really feel. As Mannix T, been a member for 3 months, says, come on, Joe, tell us how you really feel. Thank you, Mannix. I appreciate you being here, being a member for all those 3 months. Amazing. Yeah, so users over there, he says, yeah, he says, Penny, put him in the recovery position after. I know. All of it. Megyn Kelly's reaction to Kaitlan Collins moderating is funny. Megyn Kelly did the exact same thing. Says, I'll paint. Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, I don't know. I mean, you got to ask hard questions. But I don't think that Megyn Kelly was anywhere near that obnoxious. But maybe that's just because I like Megyn Kelly a lot. So anyways, we have here, Trust 2 Kids, good to see you. We have Army Brats in the house. We have, who else is in the house? Let's go over to Twitter and see who's over on the Twitter sphere before we jump up over to our after party. Who's watching on Twitter today? 13 people? Look at that. That means we're in the double digits. That means things are crazy. Let's see these comments. It's probably like just a total free-for-all. Oh, it is. It's Vientikiss. Oh, my goodness. It's Paul Mino. I had a feeling it was just going to be total. Brenda's here. It's just going to be out of control. Here's what we've got in the house. From Vientikiss, he says in this beautiful chart, a free society, we've got two different societies, a free society in column 1, a oppressed society, column 2. In a free society, the variable of truth is promoted, but in an oppressed society, the variable of truth is censored. In a free society, lies are exposed. In an oppressed society, lies are promoted. Very, very interesting chart there. A lot of truth in that chart. V says AOC is little more than a voice of the algorithm. She's all over the place. V says, I also like how on CNN, no one wanted to let the black man speak. Did you see how racist that was? Anderson Cooper just kept cutting him off. It's always funny to see Jake the and Vanderboy Cooper basically oust themselves as shills from Vientikiss Prime. Hey, phrase of the week was grab them by the purses. Oh my gosh, for gosh sakes. That was from Paul Mino. That's the holy moly meme. When I get holy moly-ish on the channel. I don't know what else to say. Holy moly. Paul also sent this one as your favorite president. This would be a good thumbnail. Oh man, I just busted the picture-in-picture. Look what I did there. So I'll turn that off until I fix it. Your favorite president, MAGA and nasty. Your favorite president, MAGA and nasty. All coming in from Paul Mino. And we had a couple from Brenda. Chicago ladies here says the news is better. Here we got Phil Reno says Trump telling the story of Carroll in the first person was spooky. Yeah, says I wish he had made it more obvious he was telling her story. The mediator had to confirm he was telling her story. That could be cut into horrible sound bites. Yeah, I wasn't real thrilled with that either. Like I said, the language is sloppy, and it starts turning into a thing there where they start exploiting it, taking advantage of that. So it turns into a problem. All right, we also had a couple others on. Yeah, here's this one. The Biden 5K invasion is coming soon from Al Holman. Here we go. Starting about today, end of Title 42. On your mark, get set, go. Here at the southern border in Arizona and elsewhere. And so, all right, my friends, those were our amazing comments from all across the fruited plain of the internet. Our friends on YouTube, Rumble, we've got locals. Hey, John Allen says, Rob, this is a special mention here on Telegram. What was this one? This one came in from John McGarvey. Says, so if Congress wants documents from the FBI and they don't give them up, what's the remedy? Well, I guess they could sue to enforce the subpoena. I'm sure they can go to court. What if they totally disobey everything? What then? I'm thinking this congressional oversight means nothing. The law enforcement side is all controlled by the executive branch. Yeah, that's true, right? What is the congressional remedy? And it would be some form of legal aid, right? We've got the three branches. And so when you have a conflict between the two branches, the other branch is supposed to theoretically break the conflict. So they would, file to sue to enforce the subpoena, get a demand from the court. The judge says, your reasons for keeping this hidden from us is invalid. Thank you. But you do have to give us the document and see what the courts say, right? And that's how when you have a separation of powers issue, you got to have some remedy to do. Yeah. Or as Facts Matter says, or Congress starts throwing their weight around, right? They start defunding them or, making it hard for them to continue to operate. But they've got to have a lot of leverage to do that. And, they'd actually have to go after the FBI and the DOJ to accomplish those things. So anyway, we'll see if that happens. But I agree. There's a possibility that they just turn around and they say, oh, what's all likelihood is going to happen is they're going to say, well, we got most of what we needed from the accommodation process. And if they don't, then maybe they file a suit. We'll see. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. And we appreciate you joining us. We are going over to our after party at watchingthewatchers.locals.com. And if you're not a member yet, we'd love it if you joined. We do extra member-only streams, a little bit smaller groups, smaller streams, a little more conversational, and we get to go through other stories that we just can't hit here because of time. And so come check it out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, or join us on YouTube. No matter where you join, get access to the Telegram link, because the Telegram link, you can see how small I am right now. Here, let me see if I can just fix this right now. I'm going to go away for, oh no, different software version. All right, we'll play around with this later. But also, don't forget to get your Field of Greens. Save 15% with code Robert when you check out. Remember, the vegetables want to be eaten. And if you want a mind map activity, go get your mind map at spotlightlawyer.com/mindmap. We also want to thank the mods and the memesmith who mod down the fort for us. Big shout outs to Vientikis Prime, K-Bean, Just Cause. We got Playin' Hooky in the house. Our friend Ronnie Cole, Zulu, Geomancy, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janek, Dog Digger. We have Donut Mind Me, and our memesmiths, Sleepy Dog Lee and Gigum Geegum, all keeping this show nice and orderly and good looking. And we appreciate everybody and all of your amazing help. But that, my friends, is it for us on the day. We are going over to our after party. We would love to see you there. We'd love to see you as a member back here tomorrow morning when we have our headline stream. But if not, my friends, well, we'll be back here to do this show again too. At the same time, same place. I'd love it if you brought a friend over and said, hey, come and join us for this live stream. It's a lot of fun. And they would stick around so that together with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful evening, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.